AIOps Evolution Weekly.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the AIOps Evolution podcast. My name is Sean McDermott. I'm your host today. Today, we will be speaking with representatives of Zenos. So Trent Fitz is with us, and Ani Gujrathi. Did I get that right, Ani?
Yes.
Good. As part of our series this season, we're talking to vendors about their technologies, getting an idea where they're at on AIOps and what they're offering to their customers with their products and platforms. So we're honored to have Trent and Ani with us today. Welcome, Trent and Ani.
Sean, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Sean. Pleasure.
Good. Yeah, my pleasure too. I was excited to have you guys on board. Full disclosure, I used to be actually on the board of Zenos way back then. I haven't been on in, 5 years or something like that. But so I have no affiliation there anymore. So we'll jump into this a little bit. So Trent, you and I spoke before this, and one of the things I wanted to catch up with you on is, the state of AIOps from your perspective, how you see things, the history of how we got here, and what's going on in AIOps today?
Yeah, so AIOps, which stands for Artificial Intelligence for IT Operations, it's a phrase that was coined by Gartner, the industry analyst firm. The original thinking behind AIOps was to address the problem where enterprise organizations have too many monitoring tools. That's the bottom line, is that it's very common for a medium or large enterprise to have 20 or 30 or 40 different monitoring tools for their IT infrastructure. And so, the problems associated with that are there's a lot of management overhead. There are blind spots in trying to see what's going on in the infrastructure. Optimizing performance is difficult when you have that many siloed tools. And in the end, there's no real service level visibility. And so for organizations that are trying to move faster and trying to digitize, having all of these siloed monitoring tools, it creates a real problem for making IT run at the speed of business. And so several years ago, somebody had the idea of why don't we create this kind of overlay tool that will allow you to keep that same glut of monitoring tools in place. You don't have to address that. And we'll just send all of the events from the monitoring tools to the AIOps platform. And so the data that goes into a generation 1 AIOps platform, and I'll just call that generation 1, it was the first iteration of this. It's events, it's alerts that come from the monitoring tools. And so the idea was we'll collect all the events from all of these monitoring tools, and we'll apply machine learning and try to produce insights by finding interesting patterns or anomalies. And so that was the whole idea, is this problem that you have that is widely acknowledged, that is extremely common in most organizations of this monitoring tool glut. Instead of addressing the monitoring problem, let's just feed all of the events to an AIOps platform, and it will magically produce insights for the primary purpose of root causing problems in your infrastructure. So if your shopping cart is running slow, or whatever application you're delivering to your end users, whoever they are, that AIOps would make it easy to identify those problems and accelerate problem resolution. So what has turned out to be true is that, first of all, the machine learning capabilities are not quite there yet to just ingest a bunch of events that for which the AIOps platform has no understanding of. The generation 1 AIOps platform doesn't know what a server is. It doesn't know what a switch or a router is, or a storage array. It's just seeing a bunch of purples and greens and whatever, and trying to make sense out of that. The reality is the algorithms are not capable of doing that without some other context. If you imagine the scenario that you're feeding billions of data points into an AIOps platform, and there's some problem. And so the algorithms then learn when this series of things happens, there's a fingerprint there. That's when we know that's what the problem is. Well, what that means is the next time there's a problem, if it doesn't have that exact same fingerprint, the algorithms are not going to be able to pinpoint what the problem was. They're not going to be able to identify that. And so it's very uncommon in modern complex IT infrastructures that some issue you have is the exact same issue repeatedly. And so the algorithms that are learning from incidents that happen, they have to see these incidents over and over and see other incidents over and over before they can even learn this is the root cause of this problem. And so, first of all, there's just a time to value problem there that how many outages do you have to experience that have the exact same fingerprint before you can identify that this problem leads to this the causation for this business problem is this IT issue that happened. And so, one of the challenges there is that Generation 1 AIOps tools that collect events, they don't have any concept of topology. And so this is one of the things that you'll hear from industry analysts repeatedly, which is, and topology, we call it a model. Some people call it a dependency map. In any case, what it means is for this thing that's being delivered to the end users, let's just call it a shopping cart because that's something that's easy for people to understand and visualize, that there may be hundreds or thousands of components that make up the IT service that delivers that shopping cart experience. These can be databases. These can be ephemeral systems. So we're talking about containers and microservices. Sometimes it's serverless application delivery. It can be virtual storage. It can be software-defined storage. There are load balancers. They're just an excruciating number of things that can constitute the IT service to deliver this one thing. And so if you don't understand that topology, if the AIOps platform has no concept of how things are connected and how they're dependent upon each other, it makes it nearly impossible for that platform to say, hey, when this problem happens in the shopping cart, it's probably this thing in the IT service that's causing that problem. And so this is one of the things that we've learned over the past, 3 or so years that there are just some serious gaps there. And so what has evolved over the past couple of years is what some analysts call Generation 2 AIOps platforms. And what this is, these are tools that are collecting other data types besides events. Instead of just saying, send all of your events to the AIOps platform, they're actually proactively collecting other data types, metrics in particular, but can be ingesting logs, streaming data. Sometimes there are agents involved. Sometimes it's agentless data collection. But now you're building this model from topology data you're collecting and metrics that you're collecting. And now you can basically build the dependency map or the model of that IT service. Now you're feeding that to the machine learning algorithms. So now when the machine learning algorithms are detecting issues with the business delivery of business applications and are able to traverse a model and see all of the systems that constitute that IT service, it makes it infinitely easier to pinpoint what the problem is. And so this is the evolution that we've seen. The first version of AIOps platforms, don't fix your monitoring, just send all of the events to this platform. And then the second version, the second iteration of AIOps platforms, they're vendors that were already collecting the data, and now they've added machine learning to the back end to do better root cause analysis and accelerate problem resolution.
That all makes sense, right? Because without some type of topology, right, you just can't understand the connectivity. And if you don't understand the connectivity, you can't do root cause, right? And I think going back into years ago, when one of the first like Micromuse came out back in the day, they were doing a lot of work around handwritten rules for reducing amount of events through deduplication and filtering and things like that. But it wasn't really until some of these companies started doing topology and auto discovery and things like that they were able to start doing root cause analysis, and that worked well for a while until just the vast amounts of data that are coming in just started outpacing the ability of those platforms to perform. So you're right, now you're back to these kind of Gen 1 AIOps tools that are almost like AIOps versions of Gen 1 monitoring tools, back in the early 2000s, and now being able to integrate with all these different sources to build that connectivity is critical. So where do you see things going over the next, say, 3 years in AIOps? Like, what's Gen 3 look like in your mind?
Let me answer that, but first I want to circle back on something you just said, that there have been analysts that have likened AIOps to SIEM or SIEM in the security world, which is event correlation, basically. And so what those Gen 1 AIOps tools have been able to do is it's better event correlation. But that's not quite the promise of what AIOps was. But applying machine learning to what used to be in the security world, the SIEM technology, that's evolved into AIOps for IT operations. As far as so it's kind of meeting in the middle now. There were the rules-based tools that were collecting all of the data, but the data became overwhelming, and so then there are the machine learning AIOps tools that can handle all of the data, but they don't have the context that they need like these monitoring tools do. And so right now, Gen 2 is kind of a meet in the middle and take all of the data in the context and then apply the machine learning to it. For Generation 3, I think that a key issue here is trust. And so, and this applies in many other areas of IT as well, and specifically to automation. And for AIOps, the whole idea is being able to automate things that human beings, were previously or currently required to do. So the biggest obstacle, in my opinion, is being able to trust the machine to do what a human being can do. And so there are a number of things that, phrases that you hear being tossed around. One of them is bring your own algorithm. And so these are, people who are data scientists or just well-versed in this kind of thing. They want to use algorithms that they understand. They know what kind of output you get. They know what input is required. And so one thing is, if I know what is behind the curtain, then I'll trust it a little bit more. The other thing is simply something that's called explainability, that you put all of these billion data points in and the output was this thing. We need to get better at explaining to people how the machine is reaching that conclusion. And we need to demonstrate that in the interface. And so that is what is helping to build confidence and build the trust that will enable people to actually deploy these tools and trust that there is some level of capability that is offloading the work from the human beings. And despite what you see in the movies and other kind of fear mongering things, none of our customers are looking to replace their people with machines. They're trying to put the people on the problems that will advance their business and those problems that still require human brains. But we have to get better at automating all of the things that can be done by the machines. And so trust is what I think is the biggest obstacle right now for broader acceptance of AIOps type tools. And I think that over the next couple of years, maybe 3 years, what you're going to see is a huge effort to allow people to get more invested in what kind of machine learning is going on. And even for those who don't want that, to be able to explain, here's how the machines are arriving at these conclusions, and this is why you can trust it.
I think there's a couple points that you make that I think are absolutely key. One is you know, when I started RealOps back in early, mid 2000s, and we were the first runbook automation platform on the market, doing orchestration and integration across multiple of these monitoring applications. I can't tell you how many times we heard, "Oh, we're going to replace staff." We never replaced any staff, through our automation. What we did is we allowed these organizations to take on more efforts, more work, and shift the work from being kind of sitting behind a screen doing mindless things to more innovative work, right? And letting your tier 2 engineers and tier 3 engineers actually do innovative work, not responding to, countless mindless, repeatable issues. The other thing I think you bring up really is trust, right? And there's a lot of work about that being done, and a lot of discussions in the AI space in general, like not AI
Sure.
ops, but really AI ops in general. And I think that I think when it comes to AI ops and talking to IT leaders, we don't deal as much with this kind of Terminator type scenario where people are a little freaked out about it. But certainly, I think when you get into the general business world and people start hearing about AI, they do get a little bit suspicious of it and protective of where they're at and resistant to change. And so trust I think is going to be, like you said, I think that's a huge thing that we're not talking about enough. And explainability is really, the basis of establishing that trust.
Absolutely.
So, good points. So, all right. So let's shift over, Trent, all good stuff. And you and I could sit here and talk about this the rest of the day, but we got to give Ani a little time here. So Ani, we asked you guys to come on and talk a little bit about Zenos and what you're doing there. So I appreciate to hear from you guys, like, what is Zenos doing today in the world of AI ops? What's your current offering? What are some of your key capabilities and maybe even some of your key differentiators in the market today?
Right. So, Zenos has been around for 14 years. We have been leader in the monitoring space, infrastructure monitoring space, recognized by analysts. We continue to, focus ourselves on infrastructure monitoring, full stack monitoring. And because there is a lot of innovation that happens and, continues to happen, because IT is not standstill. IT keeps on evolving for all the different reasons that we all know, right? Whether it is migration to the cloud, the evolution of DevOps, the ephemeral, cloud functions and the lambdas that are now, Kubernetes is another great example of how IT is continuously evolving, right? So there is a lot of innovation that is still, happening and will continue to happen in the IT world. And that's why focusing on infrastructure monitoring, full stack infrastructure monitoring is what, we want to do and we want to focus on. The latest offering that is based on the fundamentals of using AI/ML, the modern architecture of being a serverless platform is called Zenos Cloud. It's a complete multi-tenant, built from the grounds up kind of an offering that we have for our enterprise customers. And the key differentiators really there are, while traditionally Zenos has been like an agentless, collect a lot of data, and that is still a preferred way for our IT partners to deploy these monitoring solution. We have now enabled and coupled Zenos Cloud with ability to collect even more kinds of diverse data through streaming technologies, right? So you can actually stream different kinds of data, external data through our open APIs, or we actually call it democratization of data collection. So there are a lot of open source tools out there, like the Telegraphs of the world, or the StatsD and the Prometheus. So people have figured out how to collect vast amounts of data, and we want to be able to leverage that data collection or that method of data collection, bring it into Zenos Cloud, and apply those AI/ML techniques to be able to derive more and more insights. So ultimately, it's not just about deriving IT insights. It's really about deriving business insights, right? Using some of these IT infrastructure, data sets that we collect, or business data that we collect, or we can collect, and then putting two and two together and essentially deriving those business insights, right? So that's really the key differentiator. Now, Trent, and you talked about the amount of data that we collect. Just has quadrupled and is continuing to grow, or what have you. Since the onset, we have last 5 quarters, 4 quarters, 5 quarters. We have the amount of data that we collect has gone up 5 or 6 times, right? We talk about collecting data in 6 to 7 billion data points a day from all these different signals that we are getting it from. So when you collect that amount of data, trying to that needle in the haystack is the biggest cliche, but trying to take that and then derive those insights is an extremely difficult problem to solve, right? And what I like to call that is kind of an oxymoron term, but precision at scale. How do you precisely be able to derive those insights at the scale at which we are essentially ingesting the data? And that is the second differentiator, that the platform is built for ludicrous scale. We can scale massive amounts of data ingest to match with whatever you want, right? It's either the seasonality or onboarding of the new customer, or just new different business lines that come up on the platform, to continue to expand on that. So that's the second one. AI/ML is the only technique known today that you can apply to those that kind of scale and data. So the platform is built at the grounds up with those concepts of apply algorithms, or have a choice of algorithms that you can apply, because it's not a one size fits all, by the way. So that's the first part of it. Trent talked about bring your own algorithm. A lot of our sophisticated customers, enterprises, do have their own data science team, data engineering teams, and they would like to also be able to get a platform that is not only offer something out of the box, but allow that that expandability into this completely new area where, hey, let me try some of techniques that we have developed in house, right? Or our data scientists have a lot more deeper insight than what any vendor could be able to provide that, right? So that that is one of the key tenets. Explainability, we talked about that. That trust building. The multi-tenant platform, it's also, while we are able to explain, and want to and showcase, why did the machine do what it did, right? It also is about then, taking, being ability to take input back from the operator and then influence those algorithms, right? So, and we do that at multiple levels, right? We take it, we do it at the operator level, we do it at the organization level, and we can also anonymize that and do it at the platform level, right? So a lot of times, that helps solve the cold start problem, right? A new customer or a new workload is coming onto the platform. We don't take 60, 70 days or a season to go by before the platform is able to provide some useful insights. We can use the anonymized data across the platform that can start deriving those insights in a matter of days, if not hours, right? So that is I would say the third key differentiator. Now, when we talk about data science and what are the different techniques, in my mind, there are three things. There is a trifecta of 3 techniques that any AI platform needs to have to be able to be really called as an AIOps platform, right? It's a combination of anomaly detection. It's a combination along with event correlation and dynamic thresholds, right? So those 3 together are going to be able to free the IT staff to what you were just talking about, doing more and more value-added work, and not be able to, deal with, alert noise, or be able to, do some of the day-to-day mundane tasks. And that then allows, with a combination of an automation tool, runbook automation, or what have you, to be able to kind of, chase that dream of the last part of the AIOps maturity stack would be that self-healing, right? A machine created a problem, machine detected a problem, machine solved the problem, right? Now it's an elusive dream. It's a pursuit of that dream, to be honest. But again, if we are going to be able to mature these platforms, right, it requires, in my opinion, a combination of those three different techniques to be really called as an AIOps or AIML based platform. And just one of those is going to be not only insufficient, but is really not going to be able to solve the problem. As a matter of fact, the new generation of tool consolidation will include some of these, first generation AIOps players, right? Because the time to value after a lot of, hardship and the deployment and the money that is spent on those tools is really not actually providing any results. So now I have yet another tool that is giving me yet another set of insights that don't actually relate to anything else that is happening, right? So it's again, for a business like us, I think it's a great opportunity for Zenos Cloud to, get to that next level of consolidation in the IT tool sets.
So when you talk about, so I think one of the things that's kind of interesting is the ability to bring your own algorithm, right?
Yep.
And customize algorithms. And then this idea of anonymizing data across. So is that one of the different benefits of being a multi-tenant platform, is that you're able to anonymize the data across multi-customers and use that to create better algorithms that could then be pushed down to all the customers?
Absolutely. So, this is not just a IT operations tool phenomena, right? Multitenant SaaS systems are, if implemented appropriately and securely, because, this is the customer data that we are dealing with. So those anonymization techniques need to ensure that the data security is there. But absolutely the case where you can generally detect, insights and patterns that you may be able to apply, right, and give our customers even more interesting insights on how many times does a IT operator go on social media tools like Stackdriver, right? Like, hey, why did certain thing happen, right? And I have a combination of this hardware and a software, right? And how vulnerable is it, or what have you, right? Or how do I solve the problem, right? How many times have we supplemented our own internal knowledge bases by just Googling those terms, right? And trying to understand, is anybody else experiencing those issues, right? And is anybody else being able to better solve those problems quickly? So that really is the power of the multi-tenant SaaS, where if you are able to appropriately anonymize that data, then you can actually provide that insight back to our customers in forms of either real-time analytics or offline analytics, saying, hey, this set of combination is either better, or is it more problematic, or as customers are moving more and more workload to the clouds, right? Here is how you essentially move those workloads, because by the way, we have seen both the goods and the bads of of that similar experience, right, that our other customers may have had, right? So I think we are just scratching the surface, right, as an industry, on how to actually take information and anonymize and provide those insights, and that's just another extremely fabulous part of problem solving that multi-tenant system allows us to do.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about that, and one of the reasons why, is that we do an AIOps Evolution weekly broadcast, and we talk about all kinds of topics there. So a small plug for that. But we talk a lot, and over the last couple episodes, about the teams needed to build an AIOps strategy, right, and execute on that.
Right.
And I mean, you're talking about data scientists, you're talking about business analysts, you're talking about infrastructure engineers, right? And that's a lot of people. And I think that there's going to be a lot of challenges in organizations being able to build those teams, whether from a cost perspective or just availability of talent.
Absolutely.
You know, we're seeing this in the cybersecurity space right now, right? For every one qualified person, there's 2 openings. You know, you can't hire enough cybersecurity people. So what are the smaller companies supposed to do? And I say smaller, I mean mid-cap enterprise are probably, you know, $5 billion companies when all the talent's being sucked into the large companies, and you've got banks on Wall Street that are, you know, employing 1,000 data scientists, right? And the rate structures and salaries and things like that. So I think that it's really an interesting thing being multi-tenant and being able to take that data and create algorithms and models for your customers to really alleviate them having to do it. And if they have the ability and the wherewithal to go in and make modifications to them, then that's great. But I just think that I think we're running into an interesting area in IT, and that is really a lack of these higher level innovative skill sets, and we're just going to see a shortage of them. And I think AI is going to kind of make that more apparent.
And you know, the cloud migration, if you just take that as an example, right? I mean, the opportunity for every organization to, you know, at the bare bone, create a very customized solution. I don't think there is a lot of appetite for that, right? Because then you are requiring very specialized personnel to, you know, manage that, right? And then you kind of, you know, create, single point of failures. And, you know, the cloud providers for their own scale are not going to allow you, right, to customize an environment at the nth degree or what have you, right? So you know, that itself can drive the standardization, but that itself can also be helpful from this, you know, anonymizing of, you know, data and, you know, collecting a lot of, you know, experiences, similar experiences, and drawing the insights, right? So I think, I mean, it's like I said, you know, it's an extremely exciting opportunity. I think, you know, Zenos Cloud has probably a leg up from the competitors, the way it is designed, and has that ability to do that. We just now need to, you know, continue to go ahead and do it faster and at scale. So,
Sean, if I could add something to that, back to the point adding to the point that you made, if you've gone to industry analyst conferences over the past 2-3 years, one of the things that I've seen presented repeatedly is in a session that is something like how to have a successful AIOps deployment. One of the lessons learned when the Gen 1 AIOps tools came out is that organizations didn't realize that they needed teams of data scientists. But basically, you're taking machine learning algorithms, you're feeding it a bunch of data, and you're looking at the output, you evaluate it, you have to adjust the algorithms and train them to get the right output. That means you're looking for this rare species of employee that is someone who understands IT infrastructure to help inform these algorithms, and then that same person needs to understand the algorithm so that they can adjust, tune them to get the right output. And that's one of the areas where AIOps fell down out of the gate, is because people weren't prepared to hire teams of data scientists. And then when you do prepare and try to go hire them, there just aren't very many people out there with those skill sets. And so, you know, when you asked about predictions, this is one of the other aspects, you know, in addition to trust, that will help us get AIOps to meet its promise over the next 3 to 5 years, is being able to produce the capabilities without having teams of data scientists. And the key there, again, comes back to topology and dependencies and feeding that into the algorithms without a human being having to sort all of that out and tune the algorithms to understand it.
If you go back and look at my one of the broadcasts in the last week or two, we talked about a open source, some work being done out of, I think it was Cornell, around simplifying AI algorithms and things like that, so that more business people could actually get into the AI game and the work that they're doing there. And I think that's some really interesting things that the market's going to be bringing to kind of solve that problem. Is how do you, because that's really in my mind, that's a really interesting dynamic of having people who truly understand the business and the context of the business, then be able to move into the AI space and use simpler tools that have been developed to help develop these AI models. And I kind of liken it to no code, right?
Yeah.
Where you basically, 5-10 years ago, in order to build a business application, you had to go hire developers and things like that, and you had the business people. But now you have business people that get trained up on something like maybe ServiceNow or even Salesforce or something like that. They can actually build applications through no-code technology and achieve the same thing. So you shift that, you make the technology simpler so that the business applications can actually get better because they're being built with the people with the context of that. Right. Hey, so one of the things I want to talk to you about too, just ask a quick question, is Zenos has a really interesting history being derived from the open source community. There aren't very many vendors out there. So what is Zenos doing now in that open source community and the legacy of what you guys did in the past?
Yeah, no, we are a big fan of the community, both from the way we contribute into the community, also how we leverage a lot of knowledge and insights from the community. And it's not just Zenos who ultimately benefits from that. It's really, at the end of the day, our customers who benefit from that. So, for our on-prem product, right, we at a regular cadence, open source our latest offering of our on-prem solution, for the community to go and use. A lot of our new prospects to Zenos Cloud come to us because they have used the open source product somewhere in the lifetime, or they have heard about it, or they have experienced, and they want to now leverage some of the new things that we are doing. The most important aspect of that whole open source kind of setup is what we call Zenpacks, right? So these are the adapters that we can build to monitor a wide range of different technologies. And we support 3 different models of Zenpack. There is a commercial that our engineering team keeps building and keeping up to date. Our professional services team builds some specific ones based on the customer needs. And then we have an extensive library of Zenpacks that are being built and supported by the community that our customers can take advantage of, right? Not just in an on-prem way, but they can actually bring one of those community Zenpacks for a Zenos Cloud installation, and we will do all the appropriate, checks and balances, make sure that it is still an okay Zenpack for us to, be able to offer to our customer, and we can absolutely, do that. So that to us is, an immensely powerful tool that is out there, and we want to contribute to that, and we want to continue to innovate, our new open APIs or what have you, to model with a similar kind of a community support structure out there.
That's awesome. So all right, so we're kind of going to wrap up now. So one of the last questions I want to talk to you about, and I think you answered it some way, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to just get more kind of pointed on this, and that is, what should customers be looking for when they're looking for an AIOps solution, whether it's yours or others? But what are the top 5 things that a company should be thinking about when they're looking at an AIOps platform?
Okay, so to just summarize it in bullets. First one I would say is the time to value, right? You absolutely have to go and look for how soon can I get value out of this product, right? Secondly, it's really not one of those 3 things or what have you, right? It's a combination of the anomaly and correlation and dynamic thresholds that really sets you well up for taking that leap to the Gen 3, if you will, right, which is that self-healing probability. So that's important. Scale is important, right? You go to the clouds, IT teams will be saddled with developers building something and saying, okay, now it's your responsibility to monitor. And by the way, this thing that I built, generates, massive amounts of data, right? But now I don't know what to do with that, right? So that scale is important. So something can, grow as the business grows, right? Without even having for you to, continue to invest in that. So that scale is important. At the same time, you also need a tool that is kind of future-proof, right? IT is moving fast. You are going to cloud, or maybe you're, doing data centers again. Whatever the flavor of today is, right? You need a tool that is going to be there with you, that can, give you that, the elusive single pane of glass, if you will. Doesn't matter, how IT moves, right? Because the tool needs to stay with you there. And then finally, security, right? It's the data that tools like Zenos monitor is one of the most mission critical information that we collect. And if you are a SaaS-based solution, you have to ensure that that data is secure. You can trust that partner, with their DNA, their SDLC practices, their compliance checks, what have you, right? Is this partner going to be able to securely, treat your data with utmost importance, right? So I think that those would be the 5 things I would recommend that any of the vendors or any of our customers actually evaluate the vendors on. I've heard people talk about, hey, go and ask what algorithms that you use, right? I was like, oh, yeah, fine. To your point, it's really about bringing the AI to the business, not teaching business people how to do AI, right? So it's mildly important, probably, right, which algorithms that you use, but I think stick to those business KPIs, and I think that is where you will probably have a better evaluation of what you are going to invest in. So,
excellent. Well, Trent and Ani, I think we're wrapped up on our time. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, again, this is, it's been an hour that we have been speaking, and, it's amazing when, Trent and I can geek out at this, all day long.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly. So, thank you for the invite. Really had fun and enjoyed this conversation. So,
yeah, appreciate you guys coming. Trent, anything?
I was just going to say we really appreciate you having us on, and keep your eye on this space, because I think it's going to be really exciting over the next couple of years. Great. So you guys, and everybody can find out more about Zenos at www.zenos.com. Pretty easy, right? Zenoss.
Yep.
So again, thanks Trent and Ani for being here. I really appreciate it, and all the insight about and learning about your product. And good luck, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, take care.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation about AIOps and the future of IT operations. Interested in a deeper dive on these topics? Check out our resources available at AIOpsevolution.com. And remember to subscribe to get the latest episode.